Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I'm your host, Rick Becker, our co-host, Lori Hintz.
Hello.
Hello, hello. What an interesting day.
Yes, it's been a long day, actually. Yes. A very long day.
It has indeed. Probably the topic we're going to be covering most tonight is with regard to what happened in the House of Representatives today. Representative Luke Simons from District 36 in Dickinson is no longer a representative. First time ever in the history of the state that a legislator has been expelled.
132 years.
Yep, 132 years. And it was a long day in the House. There was a lot of discussion and debate. And we have a few clips of it. It's difficult because to talk about in an honest fashion. And I'll be frank with you, just before tonight's show, I was watching a show with Joel Heitkamp down the road on this channel. And I'm very disappointed. Joel's going to be on with us tomorrow night because I'd like to just face-to-face ask him what he's talking about, because he is, in my opinion, intentionally misrepresenting the situation for, I guess, the bullet points and the one-liners and the ratings and what have you, because there's a lot more to this. What I'm getting at is it's the difficulty in having a discussion about toxic work environments, about harassment, about sexual harassment, hostile work environments, right. And knowing that there's that discussion that needs to be had, but also there's a discussion about being afforded due process and wanting to make sure that we do things in the right way. And it's very difficult to fight for that without being called out to somehow say you're opposed to other things such as sexual harassment. And nevertheless, some of us on the floor did our very best to hone in on the argument about due process and the importance in what we do for everyone, regardless of what the accusations are. So we'll go through that. We've got a few clips for you tonight. We'll kind of walk through them, and you know, it's we're freewheeling a little bit because there's just so much. It was hours and hours long today.
Right. It began about 1 o'clock, and then you set up the rules for what was going to happen, and then there was some contention about those, and then there were some glitches. There were some issues with paperwork and making sure that the numbers were all correct, so that was difficult, and that protracted.
Part of the rigmarole was just that how
rapidly it was put together. Right.
It was thrown together.
Right.
We on the House didn't even know what the resolution was going to say. We didn't know for a fact that it was going to be a resolution for expulsion
until this morning.
Until 10 o'clock this morning when we got the resolution.
Right.
And then if we want amendments to it, they're supposed to be in writing, and we're supposed to be in committee during the morning. I mean, this is, when you look at what has happened in other situations like this in other states, North Dakota really fell down on the job. But let's go ahead, play our first clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I want to be very clear that in opposing this resolution, I am not dismissing, disputing, or discounting anything that any of the people who spoke in favor of the resolution have said. My concern is with the process we have at hand and with the expulsion. Expulsion, as you know, is a very, very serious thing. One of my concerns is that it seems to me, and again, this has been a hurried process, there's no doubt about it, but this has been somewhat politicized. And I'm not talking about in the way of being ultra-conservatives being taken down and what have you. It's politicized. This is being treated like it's a big spending bill. People are getting whipped on the weekend, phone calls, to vote a certain way. Politicos, non-legislative politicos are calling people up and pressuring them to vote a certain way when they don't have any facts beyond social media and some news reports. The gravity of this is not that we should be peer pressured, not that we just follow the chairman or the leader or what have you. This is so serious. This is unlike any type of bill that we normally have. But yet it's been strongly politicized. The second aspect has to do with due process. And I understand everyone's saying, hey, you don't need to have due process with this. I'll remind the lawyers that there are two types of due process, and the due process in the 14th Amendment is substantive due process. When we talk about procedural due process, we're talking about following your own rules. As the previous speaker said, there are some serious concerns that we've not followed our own rules. We have, to make it brief, a situation in which there are serious allegations. They must be put in writing and then must be forwarded to a 5-member board that is created. That wasn't done. Did we create a harassment policy 4 years ago or whatever it was for nothing? We created it to follow it. What would this 5-member committee do? I don't know. They would look at it more closely. They would do interviews. They would question, is there situations we have to look into further?
So that was just the very beginning.
Yeah, that was the beginning. I think we're going to play a clip from Ben Koppelman here too. He preceded me actually, again, talking about the process. And so I will say again, if you listen, if you watch the whole day, like you did most of it at least, Lori.
I did.
We who were opposed to the expulsion were not taking sides.
No.
We did not say that what the accusers were saying was not true.
Right.
We said we have laws in place, Section 54 dash, I think it's .03.2. We have these things in place to follow. We have a harassment policy that we voted on. It's right here.
It's astounding to me that that wasn't due. Why would you even create it if you're not going to use it, if you're going to ramrod things through and just completely ignore it?
This is from 2019. Complaints. There's a process we have to follow for complaints.
Right.
And as I mentioned on the floor of the House, part of that, down you go through a checklist, the written complaint, the written record, the written complaint must be sent to a review panel consisting of 5 members.
Well, never saw the 5 members, did we? No.
We didn't do it.
I think we should watch the Ben Koppelman. He did a very good job as well. So let's take a look at that one.
Mr. Speaker, or excuse me, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. You know, I hope that I can reflect how I intend to behave as a legislator, that I'm the gentleman that I'm supposed to be, that I say the things I should say and apologize when I say the things that I shouldn't say. And I sure hope that any comments that I'm about to make are not looked at as condoning any behavior that was done that was wrong. I want to see us get to the bottom of any sort of behavior that does not become this chamber. And I believe there's been some behavior that's happened historically that goes even beyond the tenure of Representative Simons. So with that in mind, I would like us to get back to discussing the rules, because it's been mentioned that we can't just follow the rules we like, we have to follow all the rules. And when we're following the rules, we can't shortcut the rules. And even if we know what the outcome is going to be or seek to have a certain outcome, again, we cannot shortcut the rules. Now, our rules are built on 3 tiers. They're built on the Constitution, they're built on the rules in our rule book, and ultimately, and maybe a little bit on statute, but ultimately, they are also built on Mason's Book of Order. And so I want to start with the Constitution. In Article 4, Section 12, Paragraph 3 of the North Dakota State Constitution, it states, each House shall determine its rules of procedure and may punish its members or other persons for contempt or disorderly behavior in its presence. With the concurrence of 2/3 of its elected members, either House may expel a member. Now you'll notice that isn't accidentally put in the same paragraph. It's put in the same paragraph because there's not a pause, there's not a change of subject in between those 2 sentences. If we examine the wording in its presence, the "it" obviously refers to the legislative body of the House, which is the 67th Assembly of the North Dakota House of Representatives. Ben did a fantastic job.
He really did. He did a great job.
But you can watch the whole segment. Beck has it. They'll have it uploaded again here shortly. But again, what I want to do is point out two things. Nobody is calling the accusers liars. Nobody is taking one side or the other except the side of justice. That's the side that we are taking, and you cannot deny that. If you actually watch and if you're actually honest, you cannot deny that. The second part is that once we say, you know, we need to follow these rules, it should be very, very clear that we're not looking for something that's just like some kind of
Way out
wiggle
or-
room,
right,
gray
right.
area. It's like specifically there.
Right.
It's specifically there in Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedures. It's specifically there in the North Dakota Legislative Assembly Policy Against Workplace Harassment.
And Century Code.
It's specifically there in Century Code, and we didn't follow any of them. What I don't understand, what makes this so sad, it's sad no matter what. And people are saying that the people that are giddy about the outcome are on the floor saying, well, it's such a sad day. But it is sad no matter what, but it's particularly sad because the means by which it was done was wrong. It was a true case of injustice.
Exactly.
And
No, I used to think that it was the rule of law party and
Yep.
the Republican Party, but the Republicans.
no, it's the rule of get what you want. And as I mentioned, it's politicized. It was pretty well determined. It's not like we thought we were going to overturn things. It was brought up to a vote for expulsion after they had the votes because they whipped the people. When I say they whipped, it means that they called, pressured, hey, which way are you going to go? Do you feel comfortable? The leader feels this way. This person feels that way. There's going to be a lot more. There's so much to it. Are you with us? That's being whipped. And then you had, I'd love to name some of the people.
But you
They're
won't.
big. They're big in politics in North Dakota. And they're getting their greasy little slimy fingers into all this, calling legislators as well, putting on the pressure. And if people cared about due process, they wouldn't have needed to do that because the allegations going through that process, having an independent, a neutral party, a panel investigate it, that would have come to light and justice would have been served. But they were not content to do that. They had to modulate it to get the outcome they wanted, and in the process feel very, very powerful because look, we took that guy down, and that guy is the face, as Joel Heitkamp said today, the face of Bastiat, because Bastiat, at least the way they've made it in their minds, is some big evil thing that needs to be taken down, when in fact it's just a group of legislators that are trying to stick to Republican Party platforms. Exactly. But they've determined Luke is the face, we're going to take him down. This is one hell of a victory, and it is a victory. It's a huge victory for Democrats who are able to somehow turn this into this amazing, once-in-a-lifetime situation by way of working with other disgruntled establishmentarian Republicans to completely ignore rule of law, completely ignore due process, and shove this through, ramrod it through. It was steamrolled. It was a farce. It was a kangaroo court. And it's wrong. I'm so disappointed. As much or more as I am in losing a friend, Luke Simons, in the House chamber, I think I'm more saddened by what I see is as a complete lack.
Flaunting the law.
As a complete lack amongst my colleagues for the rule of law. Yeah. They don't care.
We're going to come back and we've got a lot more. So be right back.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota. Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
All right, welcome back. It's No Apologies on Beck. We are talking about Representative Luke Simons, former Representative Luke Simons. First time ever, made history. The first legislator ever to be expelled from the legislature in North Dakota. Apparently so egregious that it warranted this type of action.
Precipitous action.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very fast. What, 8 days? When was you said something on the floor about 8 days from the time that you got?
What I said was that, and I've got oodles of notes and documentation, and the actual file, both redacted and unredacted because of their idiocy mistake that they made.
Oops.
And 8 days ago, the accusers were using language like, he doesn't know better, he talks more to cows than people, he's harmless, he's naive, he doesn't have social skills. That's what was being said 8 days ago.
Right.
But now he's a predator who must be expelled for the safety of the rest of the committee of the legislature. 8 days ago, it was just that.
Right. It's funny how.
But then it's
the story
pile on.
The story changes and people pile on and embellish, and that's what happens when people start gossiping and hearsay. And
well,
that's what happens.
it's the big pile on. See, what happened is there were these things that have occurred, and they're problematic. Luke's got an issue with how he talks to people, and doesn't have a filter, and doesn't necessarily get in certain social situations. Just don't say that kind of stuff.
I'm aware of that, but I am not off-put by it because I know Luke.
Right.
And if you didn't know him, you would look at him and go, that's odd. That's a little different. But you know what? I know him. And if you do know him and you know what he does and you know his background, you understand that that's who he is.
Right.
So that's
in the file, one of the accusers did specifically say that she had talked with Luke about lacking self-awareness and gave another legislator's name as an example. And it says in the file, Luke said, hey, if I ever do that, please let me know. So as much as Luke is causing these issues for himself, it's, again, as of a week ago, he is saying, I don't intend to do that. I don't mean to do that. Let me know if I'm doing that.
Right.
The people who are complaining are saying, hey, he's kind of weird. He's socially, inept or whatever. But then he loses his temper, curses at a Democrat female legislator. They ask for, I believe, a Freedom of Information files. Then suddenly the word's out. Then the people that are in the file feel compelled to say, well, now we have to have it be all of this, and then it's pile on, pile on, pile on.
Right.
And that's problematic. Let's play a clip here.
The section that I'm referring to, that comes right in the middle of the section where we're following all of the other subsections of Section 562, again, is number 4. And it reads, adequate notice, formal charges, and a public hearing with the right to cross-examine witnesses have been held to be necessary components of procedural due process that must be afforded to a member prior to expulsion. That is clear language. I have no idea how you can say, hey, we're going to look at and follow subsections 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 of Section 562, but we don't want you to follow subsection 4, the one subsection that indicates that the person in this inquiry must be afforded due process, procedural due process, before they can be expelled. North Dakota's never expelled anyone before.
Yeah, and
right there.
I have to wonder if thwarting the process is going to come back to bite the legislature later on. Is this wide open for expulsion of anyone in the legislature now?
Well,
I mean, if you don't have any process for it, you can basically accuse anyone, and you can start adding on and piling on, and then oust
if you have
them.
enough accusations, and they don't need to be terribly bad, as I said, some of them
Nor
were
do
just,
they need to be investigated.
They weren't saying, for the most part, that anything was sexual, just that it was awkward or weird. And if you have enough people, so if you're a person who's rubbed people the wrong way, if you've been boisterous or obnoxious, or you know, like Luke, call them socialists and rhinos and threaten lawsuits, you know, if you bug people and you get enough that make accusations, due process be damned.
Right.
There's enough. There's enough of us that don't like you, don't like what you've done. Screw the rest. You're out of here.
Yeah.
Let's.
I really thought Bob Paulson did a very good job.
Yeah, he
I
did.
was very impressed with him. Let's see that video clip here too.
Motion is withdrawn. Representative Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I rise in opposition to the resolution because I don't think it addresses the issue at hand fully. And to explain that, I'll refer to page 13 of the 14-page document I think we're all familiar with, where it says, clearly there is a major reluctance to file a formal complaint because they believe there is a lack of support from legislators, plural, for staff, regardless of the knowledge that certain legislators, plural, are habitual offenders of decency. During my service in the Navy, I was the commanding officer of a squadron of 300 personnel operating airplanes around the world, and subsequent to that, I was second in command of a wing of 4,500 personnel with 23 subordinate units with civilians, contractors, males, females. And at times, we had issues with what we referred to in the Navy as command climate. And when we had these issues, we had a team of trained personnel that would go into those units and they would perform an assessment. They would do interviews. There was an investigation. When that was complete, they would make recommendations. They would make recommendations for accountability and for training and for the path forward for that organization. What I've heard here today from several of the speakers in favor of this resolution seem to me to be concerns that went beyond just this issue. Is there a deeper issue in our chamber? I'd like to be to a point where we move beyond this and we don't have these conversations again. And I think the best way that we can accomplish that is by following our rules. Because our rules, both the rules from Legislative Council and the rules from the Legislative Assembly, allow for a third party, a disinterested third party to come in and perform an investigation. And if there are legislators, plural, there's a good chance that'll come out at that time. And then they can make recommendations for accountability. They can make recommendations for training. When our teams would go out and conduct the training, it was beneficial for people on both sides of the issue. They would play a vignette, and they would say, the facilitator would say, that is sexual harassment. Then they would play another vignette, and they would say, that is not sexual harassment. And the clarity that they provided was beneficial for the command to move beyond the poor command climate that existed at the time. We have rules in place that will enable us to drill deeper and find issues that we are not addressing through this resolution. And that would be my recommendation, that we follow our rules and let them take us where they take us, and then take the recommendation, whether it be the ethics committee or the commission, or there's folks in Fargo who are trained in this line of work. Let them come in, do their job, make recommendations, and we go from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Get a third party, get the recommendations, follow the rules, and let the rules take us where they take them.
Right. Did that sound like someone who had no concern
None.
and empathy for victims of sexual
Not
harassment?
at all. Not in the least.
No. Or did it sound like a person who was concerned that we do things in the proper way?
That was exactly it.
All right.
No, he did a wonderful job. All
We
right,
will be back.
We're going to do a little bit more.
A little bit more.
And then we'll be right back.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both a past with down-home customer service in-house and a future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car! How will we? The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing. But how will we? The closing!
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
And we're back. It's no apologies on Beck. I'm not even up for the after hours Oasis.
Not really either, because it was pretty much insanity today on the House floor with what happened to Luke Simons, because I'm not going to say with Luke Simons, because it was pretty much done to him as I saw it.
It was done to the people of District 36.
Exactly.
Because their representative that they elected has
by
been
4,000 votes,
has been wrongfully expelled. Not wrongfully because what he did was right, wrongfully because due process was ignored.
No due process. We've got more clips, so let's do this next one. This is Rick on the floor as well.
Looked that up. There's a bunch that have been expelled. Usually they're associated with convictions of federal felonies. But I looked further to find people who have been expelled or resigned because of hostile workplace, sexual harassment, and so forth. And I just want to give you a few. There's Representative Don Shooter, a Republican from Arizona, who was expelled for sexual harassment after an independent investigation. Representative Diego Hernandez, which, by the way, is referenced in the citations given to us by the memo from Legislative Council, a Democrat from Oregon, hostile workplace. A 4-panel committee voted to expel after a 9-month independent investigation. Representative Matt Dabina, Democrat, California. He pushed a lobbyist into a closet and started groping her, doing other lewd acts with her. After an independent investigation came to their conclusion, he resigned. Senator Tony Mendoza, Democrat, California, independent investigation because of flirtatious and sexually suggestive behavior, came to a conclusion. Senator Steve Lebsock, Democrat, Colorado, after an independent investigation, found 3 accusations credible. Representative Joseph Suki, Democrat, Hawaii, unwanted kissing and touching, went through their ethics commission. After they came to a conclusion, he resigned.
All right, so I had a few more there, and what I picked was just really, it wasn't cherry picking, but it was the first of a long list.
Right.
Now, again, very saddened when I watched Joel Heitkamp's show down the road today. Joel showed the clip and then referenced when I was talking about the incident where someone was pushed into a closet and was groped or fondled. He twisted it somehow. And I know he knows better, so this is willful.
He took it completely out of context?
This is deceitful, Joel. This is deceitful, and I hope that we can talk about it tomorrow night. What he said was that by bringing that up, I'm trying to say this is worse, and what Luke did isn't as bad, and we're doing a comparative analysis. That's baloney. What I am saying with that circumstance and everyone in my entire list is that they were afforded an independent investigation, a neutral party to evaluate. That was my point, and you know it.
Yeah.
Well, he's coming on tomorrow.
We'll talk to him.
He's coming on tomorrow. Let's play another clip. I think we've got Dan Ruby, right?
Yep.
We were told earlier in the first half of this discussion that the actions of the representative are in conflict with the rules of this body. So is this proceeding. We're absolutely violating it. We heard there was enough to justify an investigation, but there wasn't an investigation. But there was enough to justify it, apparently.
He's exactly right. Spot on.
Yeah. He is absolutely right. This is just a very, very uncomfortable, unfortunate situation. And we had, just to kind of round things out for tonight here, we're going to have one more clip. But we made a couple of attempts at amendments. Instead of censuring, because that was the only, instead of expelling, which is the only option they gave us in the resolution, I offered an amendment to the resolution which would say, let's censure instead of expel. Now, censure, what does it mean? Well, it's a public embarrassment, essentially. Right. Now, the problem is Leader Pollard then got up and said, that's not enough. And so I had this response.
There's no middle. I'd be happy to have a middle in there if you want. Tell me what it is. Are you really going to? I gave the list of people that have been expelled. They all have had an independent investigation. Show me one that has not. We expel this member, North Dakota will have done an expulsion on the least amount of process, the least amount of evidence that has ever been done in the United States, to my knowledge, at least certainly in the last 80 to 100 years. So there is no in-between. I respect the majority leader's point. He feels it's not significant enough. I didn't write this. So what do you do when expulsion is too much and censure isn't enough? Say, well, what the heck? We're going to do too much.
Yeah, we're going to do too much is right, and that's what happened, too much.
Yep, and that's it. So we tried to do amendments. They would have none of it. Expulsion was the only thing. As I said, they whipped the votes. It was already in the bag. It was a done deal. But we had to try. We had to try and stick up for justice and due process. And we gave it our all, but it wasn't enough.
All right. When we come back, we're going to switch gears completely from this travesty, and I'm just calling it that. And we're going to do a brain food when we come back.
Howdy folks, it's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay and breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
Hey, we're back. It's No Apologies on Beck, and we are at Brain Food.
Yes, we are.
Brain Food.
Now, we started, well, the first word that it actually came from you, because I was doing the word Corpuscular a little earlier, and you said, well, I think I know what that is. Wait a minute, that's corpuscular. So this is my first word here, right here. So this is corpuscular. I thought I would look it up, and the interesting thing about corpuscular is that it is a tiny, minute particle, a corpuscle, or corpuscular. A corpuscle is an unattached cell, especially of a kind that floats freely as a blood or lymph cell. I started looking at corpuscles and trying to figure out how many corpuscles there are available. 34 different kinds of corpuscles, including the axis, the blood corpuscle, the bone, the cancroid, the cartilage, the colloid, the colostrum corpuscle, you know, when you have baby milk. Okay, and then you've got the corneal corpuscle, you've got Drysdale's corpuscle. It was crazy. Gerke's, Golgi, Mazzoni, Hassal's, they've got all these people who have corpuscles named after them, and Mazzoni's corpuscle, and it was amazing. Red corpuscle and white corpuscle, of course, leukocyte.
Yeah.
So corpuscular, corpuscles.
Yes. All right.
Crazy.
So mine, Lori picked them for me because I was frantic on the floor looking up very technical legislative things. And so she picked Jamaica for me, which I could talk all day about Jamaica. And I don't know if you picked it because you like going there or because you know I have a history with it. I was in Jamaica in medical school. There was an elective that we could do, and we could also just take time off. I elected to work in a hospital on the south coast of Jamaica.
Okay, so
Yeah,
what are
it
the
was-
cities near the south coast?
There really aren't any.
are-
Well, Kingston is on the southeast,
Yep.
a huge city.
Right.
But all along, it's kind of rural. I was in Black River. There's also a town called Savannah, Lamar. Obviously, people know about Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, and
Which is
McGrill.
where I
Those are
was.
the biggies, right?
Yep.
I was on the very poor south coast. I mean, I could tell stories for hours about this place and my experience there, and how people would be lined up because the white doctors were there, and of course what they meant was the American doctors, because the people from the hills would come down when they heard that, and they would stand in line, and we would see them from when we got up until when clinic was closed, and then the people that didn't get seen stayed there in line and stayed overnight. And I do want to relay one story, and maybe I'll share this again another couple of times, because very few times does someone make an impact on you that you just never expected.
Right.
And so I had been seeing people all day, and we're in this little cement. It used to be a World War II thing, a little cement clinic. And finally, this old gentleman, real old, real skinny, a black gentleman, and I forget what his ailment was, but he had been standing in the rain all day, and I finally was able to get to him. And I said apologetically, it's a pretty bad day, I'm sorry. And he looked, and the truth in his eyes, he said, "No, man, I'm alive. You're alive. It's a beautiful day."
Oh, wow.
And it just is like,
you know
oh my
what?
God, because if any of us, if any of the people I knew had to do what he did for 5 minutes, they would be bitching and moaning all day long. It would have ruined their week.
Wow.
Not this guy. And so I aspire to try and think a little bit more like him whenever I can.
That's
so that's a very long story.
What a great
for a
perspective, though. That's
yeah.
fantastic. On another one of our previous shows, the words bon vivant came up. And so that is my next word, because I thought I would just go do a little searching about this too. It's a sociable person who has cultivated and refined tastes, especially with respect to food and drink. I would call you, Dr. Becker, a bon vivant, because he's kind of a spirit snob. That's what I call him. He's a spirit snob.
It's true, I'm a snob.
So fans of fine French wine and cuisine won't be surprised to hear that the French language gave us a number of words, actually, that have to do with enjoying good living and good eating. Gourmet, gourmand, gastronome, bon vivant. In the 17th century, late 17th century, English speakers borrowed this French phrase, which literally means good liver. Don't think liver. We mean living, good liver, as in living, not, the iron-rich food that your mother made you eat that I never liked. But good liver, bon vivant.
Okay, nice. All right, the second one you gave me is Belize, and it's also, I could talk for hours on Belize. It's the place my wife and I most recently have been going to most frequently. And I've been to most of the countries in Central America. I learned how to surf in El Salvador and a lot of Costa Rica stuff. I really like that area, but I don't speak Spanish. Belize is an English-speaking country.
Yay!
It's a fascinating country. Most people just hit the one most touristy area, but it is a real mix of cultures. You've got a strong Mayan presence, Mayan Indian presence. You already know I've got some friends down there that are Mayan. It's got an interesting Garafundi. So Garafundi is from escaped African slaves. It has a strong presence there. It has a strong Caribbean, sort of Jamaican presence on some of the coast as well.
I like Belize. I need to go.
It's got a strong Central American Spanish and a strong Mexican influence. All of these come together, not to mention there's a very strong Chinese and Indian influence that have come over more recently, and Mennonite influence. Very strong Mennonite. I was just down there a couple months ago, picked up a hitchhiker, a young farmer kid from a Mennonite village. Just so interesting. That country has so much to offer if you want more than just laying on the sand and getting a Mai Tai. If you want to experience and explore and you don't necessarily know Spanish, I recommend Belize. Go inland.
Very, very, very good stuff. My husband and I actually went to Jamaica for our honeymoon 34 years ago.
34,
so,
wow.
I know, really a long time ago. But I was a child. But I honestly really loved it. And we had similar experiences in that we were amongst the people and we did things that were not the real touristy things. And those were the best experiences that we had that will stay with us forever.
Yeah.
Really good experiences. All right. When we come back, we are going to go over one more executive order from Biden.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back. to segment 5. You've made it this far without slitting your wrist. Congratulations.
All right, we're doing, that was a really peppy thing to say. Okay, so we're going to go into, we're just going to move right into another one of Biden's executive orders tonight. And this first one here talks about the memorandum on redressing our nation's and the federal government's history of discriminatory housing practices and policies. So during the 20th century, federal, state, and local governments systematically implemented racially discriminatory housing policies that contributed to segregated neighborhoods.
Yeah, one of the things to note here is that the policies they're talking about came from the New Deal.
Exactly.
Came from the Democrat policies that they've been espousing for all of this time.
So just as background, basically what they're doing is they are decrying the things that they themselves started.
Right. The policies they have been wanting have been in place. And the policies that they have implemented have not only not helped, they've worsened things. Now they look and see what they've done and say, hey, you know what? We need more of our policies.
This is a great argument for getting government actually out of the business of doing housing.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Just the opposite.
It absolutely is.
The way
We've
it
got
always
another
is.
graphic here.
Okay.
Many black neighborhoods are disconnected from access to high-quality housing, jobs, public transit, and other resources. What does that mean?
What does that even mean? I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me either.
Well, they're just words.
I know.
Disconnected from. So, I mean, show me the places where there's not the public transport.
How is that quantified exactly?
Right. It's just words. They don't need to.
Right.
Because they're platitudes that they use with no substantiation whatsoever.
Okay,
If you actually try and hold them accountable to what their words mean, everything falls apart.
No, that's exactly right. So this next one, the federal government must recognize and acknowledge its role in systematically declining to invest in communities of color and preventing residents of those communities from accessing the same services and resources as their white counterparts. The effects of these policy decisions continue to be felt today as racial inequality still permeates land use patterns in most U.S. cities and virtually all aspects of housing markets. Again, just words. None of that's substantiated with any type of backing. The claims that they make in these executive orders are very confusing to me because there's nothing background-wise that proves what they're saying. They're just words.
Yep. Let's hit the next one. Many neighborhoods are as racially segregated today as they were in the middle of the 20th century. Once again, we have to say that when you look at this type of expansive type of segregation they're talking about, that can only come by way of government policies, their very own policies. Now, there's an exception because based on cultural and different things like that, people want to be with people that they can relate to.
Right, which is normal, is it not?
Go to the Minneapolis airport.
Exactly.
Why is there a disproportionate amount of people that are Somali? Because the other Somalis work there. Yeah, right. Yep. Why do the Germans hang out in
they tell the other people, and they all come to that area.
Right. You like the same food. Common. You get that you share the same experiences. You like to be with people who have similar experiences. Yep. So
that is perfectly normal, but of course viewed in this executive order as being racial issues.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, next one.
The racial wealth gap is wider than it was when the Fair Housing Act was enacted, driven in part by persistent disparities in access to home ownership. Who is in charge of this? Well, I'm just saying. Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is all from the left. They're talking about the problems that they themselves implemented and caused.
Yeah, the Fair Housing Act was implemented in 1968. And these communities they're talking about have been democratically controlled for the entire time since then. So I don't know, I mean, what they are actually saying, reading between the lines, is we fail, our policies fail, but then what they're saying to you is you need more of our policies. Again, I'm repeating myself.
We need more policies. That's exactly right. It's so frustrating. Do we have one more?
Yes.
Okay.
Although federal fair housing laws were expanded to include protections for individuals with disabilities, a lack of access to affordable and integrated living options remains a significant problem.
Yeah, there's significant problems all around with the housing stuff. It is.
Right.
It's something that's been systemic for years and years. Well, since 1968, probably.
Well, I tell you what, they talk about the racial wealth gap and this and that. That wealth gap, we can do segments on this.
Right.
That wealth gap was closing dramatically. Never before has a specific demographic, blacks, done so well as between the 40s and the 60s, when they got rid of all the Jim Crow crap and finally got government, because Jim Crow is government.
It's right.
Right. Government didn't say government was Jim Crow.
That's true.
Once they got rid of that, the gap was narrowing dramatically between whites and blacks. And then we had the 60s, and we had the policies that those brought in, which were the Democrat policies.
I might add, too, that the last 4 years, the black lives improved over Trump. I mean, Trump did so much more for it. Plus, it wasn't HUD Director Ben Carson, wasn't he? I mean, I know that things improved over these years, and now they're just going to go back.
We'll go back to, I've said it before, when Trump said, "What the hell do you have to lose?"
Yeah.
He was exactly right.
Yep.
Because the people that by and large, the black population has aligned themselves with, has let them down.
Correct.
Has put them into perpetual state of dependence and put them into this servile position to always need to have the Democrat politician be their savior.
It's all true. So this was number 35 of 50 plus executive orders, and we'll continue blasting through them. But next time, we're going to finish the week strong. We're going to have another update for you on the legislature and what has happened.
Yeah.
And we will also do
Joel
an off-the-cuff.
Oh, and Joel Heitkamp. It could be
And Joel
fiery.
Heitkamp.
Could be fiery.
Could be interesting.
He and I don't pull punches.